Hey everyone, and welcome to Smoking Syndicate. I'm your host Ben Lee here in Dallas, Texas at the Tatawahi Studios, and I'm joined again by my illustrious guest here, my co-host extraordinaire, Team Coop, William Cooper, Barrett Duplicia, and Eric Nielsen. And we tonight are going to review the brand new Undercrown UC10 in the Toro size. Pretty awesome looking cigar. Will, do you have the details on this thing?
Yeah. So this came out. Folks don't know. 2011 was the year that the Undercrown brand launched, and the first cigar of that, of course, was the original Undercrown / Undercrown Maduro. So that original Undercrown used a San Andreas Maduro wrapper, and on the Undercrown 10, they're kind of paying homage to that again, except they're going with a high priming Mexican San Andreas wrapper, which is kind of really, I think, the secret sauce of this blend. It has Connecticut broadleaf binder and all Nicaraguan fillers. Of course, it's made by Drew Estate at La Gran Fabrica. We are going to be smoking one of the 6 sizes that's available in this cigar. It's the Toro, which is the 6x52. But if you're also interested, there's a Corona, a Robusto, and a Corona Doble. There's a limited edition Lonsdale available in that special factory floor edition. And there's a Bellicoso called the 20 that's an event only 6x52. There you go.
Nice. Yeah, we all chose a Toro. That's actually in the Undercrown line, and actually the Liga Privada line too, T52 whatnot. It's actually my favorite size out of the line. It seems to be like the Shade is my favorite, the Undercrown is my favorite, T52 Liga the number 9. It's always been the Toro size, so kind of glad we decided to do this one.
Bear, we talked about this like on the last show about when we were doing like Bells of the Ball.
Right.
And I remember I said this definitely when it came to the T52. For sure, that Toro is the one I always go to with the T52 for sure.
Right. And I like I said, I gravitated towards like the Bellicoso. I thought I mean, it's interesting how, I was thinking of it's funny that you bring that up. It's interesting how that the more and more, and I've remarked on this in several different shows, but it's funny how over the years, like, I've become a really big Vitola snob when it comes to certain like cigars, certain brands, certain blends, and that's the thing that I find interesting. And Drew Estate, I was thinking about this after that conversation, and I've always been a pretty big Vitola snob when it comes to like Davidoff cigars, and but it, like, I thought about it, and apparently, I'm a pretty big snobby when it comes to Drew Estate cigars too, because there's certainly like Vitolas that I just gravitate to more. But this has been a fun exercise with the Undercrown 10, because it's a whole new playground. We get to kind of find out if there's one Vitola better than the rest or whatnot. So I haven't spoke too many Toros of this particular blend. So this is like, I think this is my second. This is my second Toro. So
Yeah, let's get a good look at this thing here.
Yeah.
How is mine's pretty oily.
Yeah, I remember when this was first being launched. They did this as they did it as a mystery cigar with Freestyle Live. And you had no bands on this. You didn't know what the cigar was. And there was a lot of talk of what this wrapper was going on. I mean, because it's an oily and it didn't have the ruggedness that you normally get off a San Andreas wrapper. So there was a lot of mystery. People, I mean, I saw people guessing broadleaf, which I didn't understand because it wasn't rugged. But I saw Ecuadorian Maduros. I know Surgeon was talking about Matafina. I mean, it was all over the place. I was always under the impression that if it was the Undercrown 10, it would be a San Andreas. But even looking at this, I was having my doubts. I'm like, this is not your normal San Andreas cigar. It's not your Falls San Andreas.
Hey, we got a comment in the chat that the camera lens isn't switching to people speaking. So
let's see. I noticed that too. So as you guys continue to talk, I'll fix that.
But what? Yeah. So it's interesting.
There
For
we
the
go.
second,
That should. Yep. Now we go.
for the second time in a row, for the second round table in a row, we've got a cigar with this particular wrapper. And true to form, I don't know what y'all's looks like. Mine is pretty oily, like Ben was saying, but man, mine's got some tooth to it, man. This is like a topographical map of Brazil. Like it's pretty toothy, man. There's a lot of exposed veins, a lot of grit to it,
See,
particularly around the cap.
Now mine isn't. Mine isn't like that at all. I'm like,
Yeah, mine actually is the same way.
Yeah.
Mine's
I'm looking at you guys.
Your wrapper.
Yep,
I
mine's,
was.
Yeah.
mine's the
Around-
same way. I've got veins.
I got one vein. I go. Wait, that's
There's a
I
joke.
got-
There's a joke in there somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be.
The but the interesting thing is, the presentation is really cool on this cigar, and it's this simple ribbon that they got going over the cap. That just I don't think it's ever been done, at least in a major premium release before. And I really dug it. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, this is really cool. The bands are much more embossed. They're better. They're better bands than probably the original Undercrown, I guess is the best way to put it. There's actually 2 bands on this cigar.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's 2 bands, and
Yeah,
then the 10.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a heavier stock on the band, if you may. And again, this is meant to be a anniversary, a celebratory, and I think it's meant to be a more premium offering under the Undercrown brand.
I mean, is there a better? I mean, I know there's argument, right? But is there a better logo than this one? I mean, I think it's cool. I mean, it's just a really cool logo.
I contend, Aaron, I agree. It's a cool logo, and I think this is the cigar that made blue bands cool. It was, you go back to 2011, blue bands were taboo still. Like you didn't do blue bands. Like it was like it was suicide if you did a blue band. Along comes Undercrown, and they put the blue band on it, and it seemed to just work for that. It just seemed to work and pop really well on it. And another thing is, you go back 10 years ago, San Andreas was taboo. Like you didn't talk about that you had a San Andreas wrapper even back then. It was like, you using a special Maduro because San Andreas still had a bad, and again, Undercrown, they went public with using the San Andreas wrapper. And I'm not saying they were the first one to go public, but after that, now you go 3 or 4 years later, everyone was using San Andreas wrapper and was proud to say they were using San Andreas wrapper. So I think look, on Coop, I gave Undercrown my Impact Brand of the Decade for a lot of reasons. Because I'm not saying it was the best cigar of the decade by any means, but I think it was so impactful on a lot of ways, and it changed the course for Drew Estate.
Yeah.
Because Drew Estate, they had Liga Privada, right? And it was great, but the problem is, like, Liga Privada was really designed to be more like their Opus X. It wasn't meant to be a regular production, spitting them out of the factory. It was meant to be done, in controlled releases and or smaller batch releases. But Undercrown kind of gave Drew Estate that everyday cigar, their Monte Cristo, their Macanudo, so to speak.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago whenever we we're at Drew Estate for the Cigar Safari, and I remember they were printing out the Undercrown for the very first time, and we had all this stuff set out, all the different ligas and other things, and we were all smoking those and stuff, and they put out Undercrown. We're like, what is that? They kind of told a story what was going on about it. And I just remember slowly as that trip went on that we gravitated more towards Undercrown at the end of the trip. We were all smoking a lot of the Undercrowns over the Liga Privadas at the time, Liga Privada number 9 and the T52. So I knew then, I'm like, well, we're people that can smoke all kinds of stuff, whatever we want. And we were picking that over the Liga at the time. And that was, I said, well, this has really got to be, something special. This is going to be a big deal later,
Agree. If you guys are not seeing the cameras change, let me know. There's something definitely got boned up with my settings here. When we
So
were doing it.
for me on my side, I can see you guys changing. I don't see myself changing right now, but when you were talking, Coop, and then Bear and Ben, I would see each of you change, but I don't know.
Facebook wasn't. Yeah, that was the thing. I think Facebook wasn't right now.
Yeah, Facebook's still not changing. So, so no, it's ironic just to go back. I'll tell my Underground story. I think I know Coop's heard it a couple times, but my story about Underground when it first came out was it's the lesson I always try to teach people when I talk about overhyping a cigar. Because I was so excited. I was so excited about the Underground 10. And I kind of had this I just had it jacked in my head, like this is going to be the best thing ever. And it just originally it this is 10 years ago, it disappointed me. I didn't get it. And I smoked it again. And I smoked it again. And I usually only give cigars about 3 tries before I'm I kind of just write it off. And and I tried different Vitolas, like we were talking about earlier. And I tried Vitolas and I tried it over and over again. It just didn't hit it, and I just didn't, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just didn't want to give up on it. And so I got to about 10 or 12 and I finally had a good experience with one. And where I finally just enjoyed the flavor of it. And I don't know if I just willed it to happen or whatever, but ever since then, I've enjoyed Underground Maduros. But I still say the best Underground Maduro is the Dogma. I love that Vitola. It's fantastic.
It's interesting. So from an underground standpoint, Coop, I got to give you credit. When you and I first were kind of talking back and forth, and you had actually sent me the Underground Shade in the Suprema. I had written off the Underground Shade originally. I would smoke it, but I just didn't really like it. He sent me that Suprema. That is the best Vitola in that cigar, in my opinion. It was fantastic. It is fantastic.
I'm agreeing with you on that one. That I mean, obviously I sent it to you, but yeah, I thought it took it up to another level. I mean, it made my list on that one and everything too. I just think, yeah, that kind of, it's more of a traditional perfecto they did with that one. Was fantastic. I'd love to see them do that size with all some of the other blends on there.
Yeah.
I went to Zoom View, guys, at least for now. Hopefully that will fix the problem.
Yeah, it was stuck on me. I noticed that it just showed me no matter what.
Yeah, so I hate the Zoom View, but we'll use the Zoom View for tonight, guys. So
okay, now it's
It'll be
gonna stuck on everybody.
yeah, now it's stuck. Now you gotta look at all of us going forward.
So I can't pick my nose without everyone seeing
Yeah,
it now.
that's why I don't like it. Yeah. And like I said, I don't know, we tend to go, Bear and and I'll put Ben in maybe that category. And you correct me wrong. We tend to go very Vitola specific too. And sometimes it takes a while to find that right size of the blend, Aaron. In your case, it took a little while to find it with the shade. I mean, it just happens sometimes. The little pequeños they did in the Maduros a couple years ago those were fantastic. Those little pequeños.
The tins?
No, not the tins. They were bigger than the tin size. They were big. They were kind of they released them for TPE in 2020.
Oh
So-
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought they did well. They smoked well in the tin too, and there were a few of the Drew Estate products that I didn't necessarily like in the tin.
Yep.
But I thought
No, the
Underground was
tin.
good.
I think, yeah, and I agree. We were talking about the tin ones, and it was funny when we were doing the Bear and I were doing Bells of the Ball, which we call the best Vitolas in the line. And then we were kind of saying the Vitolas that should be left home at the dance. And a lot of money I picked were the tin ones, but that wasn't a knock on the tins. It was the strength of how good some of those lines were, we were talking about. Yep. All right. Are we
Already,
cutting the lighting right now?
Yeah, let's say y'all ready to cut this and check the draw and pre-light aromas
Yep.
or pre-light flavors?
While we're doing that, the noted footbound, decade of dedication, all decked out. So here's my note about the all decked out phrasing on the footband. It's like, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. It's like the first kind of homage to like the rebel, the rebel Drew Estate, the guys who did Acid and
Right.
on some of their more premium products. Like, Liga Privada's Underground, traditionally the Herrera Esteli lines, like they have their, they're not traditional is not necessarily the right word, but more, I guess, conservative. Like Acid's their playground, right? That's where they get to have fun. That the Deadwood series, things like that. But the all decked out phrasing, I caught my eye because I was like, oh, that's cool, because that's kind of like a kind of an homage to Jonathan and
Yeah.
the road that got him there.
Yeah, I was kind of envisioning that too. Like the guys who weren't wearing the cutoff shorts and the sneakers, right? They're kind of getting all decked out, like to celebrate the 10 years. I could see them putting on the tuxedos or something, maybe like that.
Are you cutting the ribbon with the cigar? Are you guys pulling it out? What are y'all doing?
I did pull mine
I
out.
pulled
Yeah.
out as well.
I don't want I've never
There's a-
tried to cut the ribbon.
there's a
Just
joke
because I don't
there
want to
too.
damage my blade.
Yeah. Definitely a joke there too, Bear.
Yeah.
So how's the draw so far, like on your cigars? Aaron, how's your draw?
Mine's great. You know what? I smoked a couple of these to this point. I had one that was a little snug, but this one's absolutely dialed.
Yeah, I've really it's a relatively straight pre-light draw. It's not like overly complex, but it gives me enough, and it whets my appetite enough to want to smoke this cigar. So I get notes of like black coffee, a little cocoa powder, and a hint of spice.
Yeah, I can see that. I get like what was popping into my head was I get like I get a coffee note too, slightly leathery, woody notes, and like almost a hint of a cherry on there too. But my draw, it's not the milkshake draw that I like. It's actually a little bit looser than that. It's not overly loose, but it's looser than normal that I would like.
I've had that, Ben. Now mine isn't doing that tonight, but I have had the non-milkshake draw with this because I did smoke quite a few of these over when I was doing the review.
I do
Bear,
get
how is
this-
yours?
It's probably in the line of yours. It's not milkshake. It is a little bit looser. I get that fruit note that you're talking about. Mine's not as mine's more on the blackberry side, like blackberry preserve, kind of got some,
Yeah.
but that sweetness is there, that sugar is there. I get a little bit of that leather, a little bit of that coffee. The foot, smelling it off the foot. I mean, that's just straight earth, man. That's just straight mud.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say with mine. Like when I was smelling the cigar from the wrapper, it's almost like they got that barnyard smell. So I was expecting a little bit different on the pre-light draw, but it's not. It's totally different. I don't like any kind of barnyard style flavors or anything on the
I get a
cold draw.
leather. I got a leather on the smell. Smells like not catcher's mitt leather, but
Yeah.
leather. And I get a little acidity in the cold draw, like a fruit acidity.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, that's what Bear and I were talking about. Like I kind of said kind of a cherry note, but it was like a fruit note. That's the kind of the best thing I could describe it.
Yeah.
But
See,
then when
now, I'm
Bear
gonna
said blackberry, and when I went back again, I was like, yes, I think it's more like of a berry note, kind of like he was talking about.
I'm not getting the berry on this one, which is interesting. I have gotten berry on this when it first came out.
It's interesting. That's
Maybe it's the
foreshadowing
veins.
H99.
But I will say, there will be. I don't want to give it away, but there's a sweetness that I do get when this is lit. That is kind of in the realm of what you guys are talking about.
And I'll talk about it when we start smoking this, but I've got a comparison to this cigar.
Well, how about we go ahead and light it up then?
Let's
Start it
do
up.
it, man.
By the way, I went with a straight cut and I'm using a jet line triple torch.
Always a guillotine cut for me, and I'm using a match.
And my lighter
Old
just
school.
went out. Let's see what else I got. I should be using my Freestyle Live lighter, but it's not here. I have to go get it, and I don't want to get up. So
I was gonna say, man, that's a weasel move.
no, I just I don't want.
I should be using my freestyle live cutter if I had gotten one.
No, oh, you didn't get one?
No, that's what it sounded like.
No, I got one.
Like
I just
thought-
don't have it.
I
I just
know,
don't have
I
it.
know,
here. Yeah.
I know, I know.
Okay.
I know. We're good. No, I just said. So
I tell you what, so from a tasting perspective, I think this is a great cigar for people that have sometimes trouble picking out flavors. To me, you can pick out a few, at least I can, a few distinctive notes that come with this cigar. So to me, initially, I am getting kind of this kind of a dry woodiness with a little bit of sweetness and black pepper. I mean, to me, that's the dryness and the woodiness is the first thing that jumps out at me on this one for me.
So I'm getting the coffee notes, definitely. And I'm getting some cocoa powder as well. Now, the sweetness, which I'm starting to feel or taste, I should say right now, is a licorice note. It's a red licorice note I get.
That's interesting.
Up on this every time I've smoked it. Now, there is some spice, and we'll talk about the spice as this comes out. So there's I'm getting definitely some pepper notes as well on it.
Do you guys get that like campfire woodiness?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
That's-
get that.
Yeah. Now this is probably about 4.5 to 5 months old right now, at least in my humidor. But I think that all of ours should be the same age because I think there was I think it's all from the same batch. And Joe can correct us if we're wrong, but I'm gonna guess we're all. You're talking about not necessarily that campfire wood, but I'm definitely getting some woody notes, which I don't remember getting on this beforehand.
I think that like when I first get this lit, you're kind of it's almost kind of like this interesting barrage of flavors. Like we've talked a lot about, like everyone's kind of having these inner different experiences and some are dominant than others. But I think it's like this, like sometimes you smoke those cigars and it's just like, oh, that's great. It's like some real nice earthiness, or man, there's some beautiful spice, or damn, that's a pepper bomb. It just kicked you in the throat, or oh, I get this delightful creaminess. Like there's those cigars that are pretty like one dimensional with maybe like a complement of 2 or 3 flavors or something like that. That makes it for like a really well balanced pot. Not to say it's going to sound horribly negative, and I don't necessarily mean it, but this is kind of like, this is like a barrage of like just flavor that just kind of hits you. It's like, whoa, shit, what the fuck just happened? Like, am I smoking this? Like, am I smoking that woody campfire? Oh wait, there's some sweetness there. Oh, there's some earthiness. Oh wait, now I'm using the retro nowadays. Like it's like, it's kind of almost confrontational on the palate. So I'm using all these negative words, but it's like, it's almost like, whoa, like where am I? For me. And it, again, that's not or I'll kind of reset it, and I'm not trying to be an apologist here, but it kind of gets me excited because I'm like, okay, where am I going to go? Where's this cigar going to take me? And I do get that. I do get a little bit of that burning wood, a little bit of earthiness. There's some spice, and they're bold flavors. We were talking about this on the first round table, like about bold cigar and bold flavors. Like this is a bold cigar, and it's just kind of like it's just pow. Hits me right off the get.
Well, I think what you're saying, Bear, I agree with you. I think there's some complexity to this. I think there's more complexity to this than, say, the traditional undercrown, right? So I think that there's more to this cigar than the original undercrown is what I think what you're saying. And
Oh,
I
1,000%. Yeah. 1,000%.
And look, I know all cigar manufacturers take their time with their blend and they spend process, but when I smoke this, I feel like, okay, they took their time with this to make sure they got it right for a 10th anniversary and not just put out like, hey, this is our 10th anniversary. Here's another, blend number 25 that they pulled off the back shelves.
Yeah, I'm getting that like that kind of a campfire kind of, almost like a bonfire out in the woods in the fall kind of a thing.
Yep.
It's kind of what comes to my
Okay.
head. And then I get
So-
like what?
No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead,
Keep going.
I was saying
No.
I get the black pepper, especially when I retrohale it, I get a little bit more spice.
Yeah.
I get a little bit of leatherness. There's a little hint of a sweetness to it as well. It's starting to develop even as this burns, it's developing even more. So it'll be interesting to see what we get at the end of the first third.
So what I was going to say is I've smoked, this one's actually reminds me less of what I'm going to say, but when I first smoked this cigar, it is the big brother, and what it reminds me of, some people may have smoked the cigar, some not, the Rocky Patel Prohibition. When I smoked that Rocky Patel Prohibition, this one, I was like, oh wait, it's got that like distinctive.
The Mexican one.
Yes. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly right. Yep. It had that like barn smoke. I guess it's like that smokiness, barn smoke coming off of this that the Prohibition has.
I'm still, and I don't know if it's psychosomatic. I mean, I'm still getting this black coffee note. I feel like I'm still getting it.
And for those who retrohale, I think you can pick up additional flavors, but this is not going to burn you from a pepper standpoint. Like I can
No.
retrohale this with no problem.
Yeah, well, I can see what you say about the black coffee note, because like in the background, there's something that's got like a bitterness, kind of like of a coffee.
And a little acidity.
Like
Yeah,
it's almost there.
Yeah.
I'm not getting it enough where I can say, yeah, that's a black coffee note, but I can totally see where you're getting that from.
yeah.
But I just think I need to
Yeah,
burn a little bit more into it, and we'll pick it up.
Coop, you're right with, like you just said, Ben, there's some acidity to it. That's exactly what it is, like coffee.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered this, the initial. Let's we'll go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back to let you know what we thought of the first third. And we're back talking about the end of the first third. I think we're all kind of close to the same point now. Aaron, what are you getting on the first third?
Yeah. So, as we talked about the some of the smokiness, the barnyard, some of that, a little bit of that coffee acidity that Coop had talked about. I'm getting that like a little bit of that mineral grit, kind of that earthiness to it. Again, the retro has a light, little bit of white pepper to it. And I get a little bit of nuttiness now. So I think the cigar is kind of hit a spot now where it's started to develop, and really enjoying it for the first third.
Bear, what about, or Will, what about you?
I'm a little further behind you guys, but I'm still getting the coffee note for sure. I am getting some of that cocoa powder, and it's not. It's kind of, we talked about this on some of the previous shows. It's a little bit of unsweetened cocoa powder that I'm getting. I kind of feel it at the back of the tongue is what I'm getting. The pepper is there, but it's definitely a secondary note right now. And the same on the retrohale. It's not overpowering you on the retrohale right now. And I still have some of the licorice sweetness I talked about. There's a smoothness on this, is what I'm saying. It's kind of refined. But I understand what you guys are saying about the gradients, but there's a definite smoothness to this cigar, at least in this stage, right now. It's. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting some. Yeah, I mean, the coffee notes are kind of in that range with some. And I put the coffee notes and the earth notes very similar. Is kind of where I get. It's kind of that same range of notes, but it's not gritty. It's not as gritty as I'm not getting as much grit on that. Is what I'm saying.
Bear, what about you? What are you getting on the first third here?
You know, it's interesting that Coop was talking about like the smoothness of it. Yeah, like there's not, you know, there's
No.
there is there. It's not hot, but do me a favor, guys, real quick. Put your fingers near the lit foot of the cigar. Just kind of tap, just kind of feel around. Man, the cigar's hot. Mine is hot.
See, mine's as cool as the underside of the pillow.
Are you serious? Mine is hot. And
Mine's not overly hot either.
that's what's interesting to me, like how
Yeah, I'm holding it right there.
how slow burning it is.
Touch it right to the burn line.
Oh man,
What's your drawer like, Bear?
my draw is a little is firm, is a little bit is
Yeah, 'cause
well,
I have a little milkshake going here. That's why.
and but no, it's not affecting the flavor. That's what I'm saying. Like I am a little concerned if it stays this hot, like what my experience will be like on the last third, which is why I don't want to really speed up too much, even though I said I would.
Yeah.
But talk about flavor notes of the first third. Like I like that kind of that barrage of flavors that I talked about on the initial couple of puffs is kind of waned. It's still bold. I'm getting some minerality that that's going along with what Aaron was saying. I get some minerality. It's very savory. I'm getting just a little bit of saltiness, kind of like a salted caramel thing going. There's a little bit of that blackberry sweetness on the very, very back end, very just kind of like remains on the finish. The retrohale is a slight touch of pepper, some earthiness, some of that minerality, some balanced sweetness, and it's about a medium finish. It's not long and it's not short. It's not like the Rocky Patel that we smoked a couple weeks back. And yeah, I'm enjoying like I said, when I was kind of hit with this barrage of flavors in the very beginning, I was excited about seeing where this is going, and I'm enjoying it. Like I'm liking the journey that this is taking me on so far. Again, this is only my second Toro of the Undercrown 10 that I've smoked, period. And yeah, like I said, I'm enjoying the journey so far, but I am concerned about how hot my cigar is as it gets towards the finish, if that's going to affect the flavor at all. But right now it's not.
Is it soft where you're touching it?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry, because if it was very soft here, or if it was even soft, kind of, if you were getting softness,
Tunneling.
yeah, I mean, I think your combustion's fine. It just may be a higher temperature it's burning at. But like sometimes I'll get that, and then I go an inch or two down, it's soft, and I'm like, this is going to be a problem in the second half. So
it's still pretty firm.
Yeah, so I don't think it's it may just be burning a little. Your leaves just maybe burning a little hotter for whatever reason.
How about you, Ben?
Well, on the end of the first third, I was getting that black coffee note that Coop was talking about earlier. And I still get that minerality we're talking about, that kind of that campfire kind of flavor too. That's with that. It's really good. I get, like you were talking about the white pepper. I get, when I retrohale that, I get that. I don't get that unless I retrohale the cigar.
Mhm.
I don't get a lot of pepper when on the regular draw, but when I retrohale it, I get like a white pepper and a little bit more minerality too. There's a little bit of earthiness. I get like a hint of like kind of like of a chocolate note as well. And I get that blackberry note that we got in that Bear and I were talking about. I originally called it a cherry, but when he said blackberry, it was like ding, that's it. That's a better description of it. It was like a berry note. And it's kind of been developing as the first started to burn down. So far, I'm really enjoying this cigar.
Yeah.
It's really, really going good. Lots
Yeah.
of smoke production. My finish is a little bit longer, like than what Bear was talking about. He got a medium kind of finish. I'm still tasting that on my palate, the flavor profile of the cigar, the notes and stuff. So mine's a little bit longer of a finish, which I thoroughly enjoy. I much prefer a long finish. So
Mhm.
so far, this is going really, really well. First third off to a good start. We'll be back in a minute to let you know about the second third. Hey everybody, we're back and we're at the end of the second third now. And we'll start with Coop. What are you getting on the end of the second third here?
I'm a little further behind you guys, right? But there's definitely a ramp up of the spice is the big difference right now. And it's on both the tongue and the retrohale. The retrohale is a lot stronger with the pepper right now. Drew Estate used this term Mexican hot chocolate. I don't get it with this. I don't get it with the Underground Town, to be very honest with you. But I do get the spice contrasting with these coffee and cocoa notes that I've talked about, for sure. So, but there's definitely the spice is literally increasing through this second third right now for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. Aaron, what about you? What are you getting?
Yep. So I'm at about the same place you are, Ben. So for me, it's continued the kind of the earthiness, some of the leather. As I mentioned to you guys, as we were, smoking through the second third, I do continue to have that dryness of the mouth, kind of the Coop talked about that cocoa powder, but that cocoa powder that's kind of a drying factor to it. Still a little bit of that the pepper, but kind of still more of the white pepper through the retro. So a little bit of the continuation of what we had through the first third, but by and large, that earthiness, that leather coming through, and the burn is razor sharp.
Bear, how about you?
So I have to say I'm a little bit jealous of everyone's, I think this is a little bit of user error, but I'm a little bit jealous of everyone's like pristine construction. Mine's finally caught up. My burn's finally evened out. The ash is holding, but it's not as like concrete, like you guys are talking about stacking dimes, which is an expression that Ben Holt of Dissident taught me. I never heard that expression. And then I heard it rampantly after he mentioned it to me. I was like, man, I've never heard that. That's a really cool expression. When referring to ash, and I had never heard it before, ironically, and then I heard it all over the place. And Aaron mentioned it earlier in the show, and I was like, oh, that's funny.
I agree with you on that, though. Yeah, I agree. I'm not quite getting that pristine ash.
Yeah. So we talked about the first two roundtables. We talked about the cigars that we smoked, where the middle third that we're reviewing now for this particular cigar, but the middle third of those previous two roundtables was kind of like the star of the cigar, right? And I have to say that the first third was a much better experience for me than the second third. The minerality isn't as sharp, it's not as complex. The boldness is still there, but the flavors are becoming a little bit more muddled. It still tastes really good. The smoke is still cool. But the flavors are becoming a little bit more muddled. They're not as sharp. They're not as crisp. The retrohale is becoming a little bit longer, but still not very spicy. And I'm interested to see what this last third's going to do when I pull up the label, but that's kind of the experience that I've had so far. I thoroughly enjoyed the first third more than the second third. What about y'all's experience in that? Did y'all enjoy the first third better or the second third?
Well, I think for me, I mean, it typically the first third experience is where a lot of the cigars for me shine. And then into the second, third, and then I think the last, I think, Coop, we talked about that on one of the last shows, like where it was like this cornucopia of flavors, this crescendo of the final third. I've never had that. I've
Never have it.
never had that in a cigar. So I'm still waiting for that part. But I'm with you, Bear. I think the first third, I think it was a little more unique, if that makes sense. I think the flavors were a little more unique in that first third than they were the second third. Still enjoying it, but I enjoyed the first third more than the second third.
I'm in agreement with you on that too. But the second third is not bad. It's not. I'm not saying it's performing very well, but I thought, like I said, I didn't get that Mexican hot chocolate flavor on any time I've smoked this. It's a little more of like muddled. I don't like to use the word muddle, but that maybe I don't have a better word. If you got spice, now you got this, but it's not like fusing. It's not giving you a fusion, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, when I say muddled, see, like I've used a lot of words tonight that are like taboo.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what we've talked about in previous shows and everything, like in previous roundtables too, even like where we talk about like acrid being like, you need acidity, you need to balance a cigar, you need certain things. And so like when I say muddled too, like it's muddled in comparison to the first third. So it's, again, not a poor experience. It's not muddled flavors. Like I'm not comparing this to another cigar. If I would, and I will, I guess for a second ago, like I will for just a brief second, like the second third, while muddled compared to the first third, is a better experience than I've had with more cigars where I would still use that same descriptor of muddled flavors. Does that make sense?
Yes. I see what you're saying. I agree with you on that. I didn't have a better word either for it.
Well, yeah, and I think like you said, muddled has carries this negative connotation. It's
Right.
like, oh, it's losing its flavor. It's not performing. Well, that's not what I said. It's just not performing at the level that the first third. Like I said, when I first lit this cigar, it was a barrage of flavor and complexity, and you just didn't know where the cigar was going to take you. And I enjoyed the journey that I was on in the first third, and I'm still enjoying the journey. It's just transitioning to a different point.
Yeah.
And yeah, would I prefer to have a duplicate of the first third? Yes. But it doesn't mean that the muddled flavors of the second third are a less than enjoyable experience.
Like Aaron said, most cigars, the star is the first third. But sometimes like you get what I call the tale of two cigars, and there were a couple of reviews on Coop that had this, right? First half is fantastic. Nosedive. It's not the case with this. That's not the case. This hasn't nosedived, is what I'm saying. It's still a very enjoyable smoking experience.
Well, that's probably one memories of A Tale of Two Cigars is, and I don't want to get too far into this because I know Ben wants to cut it at some point, but like and I know you're a big fan of this cigar, the Southern Draw Brimstone, the Jacob's Ladder Brimstone.
Yeah.
For me, that was a huge tale, not taste like anything like the second half. Like there was just so much difference. And this is a cigar, to the point of bringing it back to the cigar full circle, is this cigar is a journey, but I'm smoking the same cigar. Like I'm experiencing the same story throughout, rather than this tale of two cigars. Would I want a duplicate of the first third experience? Absolutely.
You know what's interesting? I'll say this. Todd Johnson, who's a board member of the IPCPR, PCA rather, I'm sorry. And he was my retailer. He's notorious for not liking spice on a cigar. And I haven't given him or smoked one of these with him, but I guarantee the first third, he would love this first third, but the second third, he probably would put the cigar down just because there's definitely more spice here. And I think it's really increasing as it goes along.
Yeah, kind of what I get on the second third is to me, it's less complex than the first third. Like I'm not getting that berry note at all. I get a little hint of cocoa. That kind of that campfire to me now is kind of evolved into more of a general woodiness to me that it kind of what it reminds me of. Bear will know this. Here we smoke a lot of meats with mesquite wood, and it has that kind of that mesquite flavor to me, a woodiness. And I'm getting a lot more spice. The minerality to me is kind of toned down a lot too. I still get a little bit of that black coffee, a little just a hint of it. But when I retrohale the cigar, I still get that white pepper, but it's a lot more subdued now, and I get a little bit of more earthiness through the retrohale. But so far, I mean, I'm still enjoying it, but it's definitely way less complex to be on the second third than the first third.
I agree. I would agree with that as well. I'm also getting an increase in strength on this cigar. So I would say this starts out as medium and strength and body. It's pushing into medium to full range right now. So if it went from like a 5, maybe on both of those, it's going to about a 7, 7.5 right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's kind of the same as what I'm getting as well.
Yeah.
And how about the back of this label, guys? It has the Underground story.
Yep.
Created by our torcedores who had to reduce their consumption of Liga Privadas. They banded together and crafted a blend of their own for their own daily enjoyments. By selecting different tobaccos and primings, it was no mere replacement and quickly became their favorite smoke. And continues to tell the story. And it's just, so this is kind of a thank you for making Underground your favorite cigar in the world for the past 10 years. It means the world to us. ... A decade of dedication.
And if you look
Beautiful.
at the back of the other band, there's gracias on it. Like a thank you, another thank you they've done on that.
De
De
nada.
nada. Oh, Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
What?
Worth it.
We both said you're welcome
Oh,
in Spanish.
Espanol. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and we'll finish the cigar off. We'll come back to give our conclusions. See you in a second. Everybody, we're back and we're at the final third here now. Let's go see what this is like. Bear, what did you get out of the final third?
Yeah, so as I'm kind of making my way through the last third, the cigar's kind of gotten a little bit spicier. The boldness is still there, but the muddled flavors have kind of completely morphed into like this more one-dimensional. There's not as much complexity anymore. There's a lot of earth. There's a lot of like black coffee. There's this star anise bitterness that's kind of seeping in. The char has really kind of set in. It's kind of really become a little bit more acrid. I'm really unfortunately just not enjoying this last third at all compared to the first 2 thirds. The retrohale has improved through each third. I will say that from my experience, like the retro on the first third was very medium finish, very smooth, very cooling, very uninteresting in the first third. To the second third really became very prominent. Really enjoyed that. That was the star of the second third. As I mentioned, the flavors were kind of as they kind of muddled compared to the first third. Still enjoy the second third. The last third, the retrohale is the star, where the flavors have just completely bottomed out for me and become really acrid and charry. I'm not really enjoying the mouth feel of it at all, unfortunately. But I know we're going to be talking about the overall score and everything here in a few minutes, but that's kind of been my experience. Aaron, how are you enjoying the last third?
Yep. So I agree with you, Ben, or I'm sorry, with Bear. From where it started from the initial third to where it finished up, kind of in a gradual descent, but not in a necessarily like in a terrible way. I think everything kind of just turned to that heaviness, that darkness. I mean, it from the flavor profile, it still had the earth, the leather, Some of the pepper became a little kind of heavier as it finished up. The flavors were not as complex, so it kind of just morphed into what I would consider I don't want to say typical final third, but overall an enjoyable cigar. I thought they did a really good job with this. But the star of the cigar was the first third. Coop?
When I reviewed this, I said basically when you get to the final third, it is a different animal. This cigar. And I think Bear, you kind of hit it. I'm getting a lot of the coffee notes. I'm getting some of the bitter cocoa. The spice is kind of level, but there's a lot more spice at this point right now. But I definitely would say this is a notch down from the first 2/3, but not terrible. Not something that I'm wanting to put down by any means. But it didn't have that crescendo. Like there's never that crescendo in the last third. So
Crescendo
my
flavors.
combustion is still very good. This is still quite firm here. So it's in the medium to full range. But it's not something I put down. But the first third was better than the second third. And the second third was better than the final third.
Yeah, that's kind of I'm kind of in the same with y'all. So for me, in the conclusion, the final third to me was like right now I'm getting some more spice and that kind of a charred woodiness. That's kind of all I'm getting, to be honest. And it seems like it got less complex. Like to me, the first third was really complex, and then less in the second third, and then almost completely one dimensional in the final third, like Bear was saying.
Yeah.
And I thought the flavors just kind of slowly just started to tail off as they end, kind of a downward slope, So I thought the cigar was pretty good, but the first third was definitely the shining one
Right.
of all of them by far.
Right.
And I really enjoyed like there was so much flavor going on there. And it was a great contrast. But like right now, basically what I'm getting is like I said, that charry wood, a little bit of spice, and I'm getting a little bit of that bitterness and slight acidity on the back of the palate, And the finish has gotten a little bit shorter as well. Retrohale still to me is a little more earthiness than anything on the final third. And for me also,
Yeah.
the body had kind of ramped up from the first third. So to me, it started off like medium, second third like medium plus. Now the final third for me was low, like the low end of full bodied.
Yeah.
So
There's no
definitely-
sweetness left either for me.
yes,
Right,
I'm
yep.
getting nothing at all. No sweetness whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that the more acidic and the bitterness has kind of come more out on the final third because the sweetness is completely gone. So those just not balanced out. Like to me, it's more unbalanced in the back end. Where to me, it started out really well balanced, almost like a tightrope walker. Start off really well, and then at the very end, they fall. Because it's just like to me, it's unbalanced at the final third. But I would still say for the first third to the second third, it was still relative. It was really balanced. The first third, second third, a little wobbly. The first third, it was just unbalanced. But overall, I'll start with the score this time. For me, I would rate it as a 90. And I would say I detracted a point to me. I was thinking this when I first started smoking this, I thought this is like a 92 rated cigar because it has what I like about it. It had complexity, balance, a pretty decently long finish. It wasn't it was just really, really good. And I like the contrast and notes and how they intermingled and it really complemented each other. And then it's a guy to the middle third. It was kind of losing a little bit of that. So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna knock it a point. And the final third, it kind of went flat. So to me, I'm rating this a 90. Bear, what about you?
So I think this is so full disclosure. I think that you were talking about being a Vitola snob at the very beginning of the show, and I have to say that I thoroughly enjoy the Robusto Vitola in this particular blend.
I haven't
The Robusto is-
Robusto yet. No, I did.
yeah.
I did. It's still pretty good. Yeah.
The
I did.
Robusto to
I
me
li-
is
I did.
the Robusto to me is a much better experience overall. So I like you, Ben. I think the cigar started off at a score much more highly favorable than where it ended up being. So I had this cigar kind of starting off like a 90 with really complex, the barrage of flavors that I talked about in the first third, the journey that I was really enjoying. And even though the flavors got muddled in the second third, I still probably held it. It still probably held its course at a 90. And had that second third morphed into the last third, I still probably would have kept a 90. But the finish on this particular cigar for me was just very, like I said, the retro becoming the more pleasing of the thirds still wasn't enough to overtake the mouthfeel and just how much it dropped off for me. The acrid, the char, the bitterness, it just overwhelmed the palate here in the last third for me. And I take it down 2 points. So for me, it's an 88 overall, the
Ooh.
Toro.
Mm.
But
Aaron,
I do
what
love
about you?
the Robusto considerably more.
Yep. So I'm in agreement with all you guys. And actually, Ben, from a scoring standpoint, I had 92 to a 90 to an 88. So it averages out to a 90. So what I would tell my overall take on this is what I tell somebody to go buy this cigar. Absolutely. Is it box worthy? No, maybe not. I think it's a good cigar. It's not great. I think if it could have held, what it delivered in, say, the first 2/3, I think I would have had an overall clearly better impression. I just think, again, the final third just kind of got one-dimensional, little, we keep using the word muddled, but it kind of got into that just average at best finish. But overall, I think it was a great selection by us. I would say definitely try it. If you're a fan of the Undercrown, I think you're going to get a nice variable to it. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with an overall of a 90. And by the way, for mine, the construction, the draw was really good, which is obviously very important in the rating scale. So really well constructed.
Will, what about you? How do you score it?
I give it a 91, and that's kind of what I reviewed it. And I'm keeping the 91 rating. The way this cigar started, I thought I was talking about a cigar that was going to be contending for the top spot of the year. It kind of tailed off a bit. I didn't think the last third was quite as harsh. I maybe went with an 89 on that one, as opposed to an 88. But there was enough in the first 2/3 that pulled us up to a 91. But had that first third experience continue, even if it didn't transition flavor-wise a lot, I would have been talking about this in that 92 range, which is enough to contend for a top spot of the year. But 91, I was very pleased with this cigar. I seem to be more pleased every time I smoke this cigar. We're going to see how it does at the end of the year on the coupe thing. There's one more that's going to be smoked for the final ranking at the end of the year, so we'll see where this lies. If it's not a lock on the list by any means yet. Things can go up or down. So I'm going to go 91. I still would get a box of these. The Robusto, I want to just comment. I did smoke the Robusto down at Caribbean Cigars, and I really liked it. But the problem is I was talking to people at the shop, so I didn't really have a chance to rate it or anything. But it was very good. That's why I said I did smoke a Robusto. It was very good. We'll give the Lonsdales a shot. I'll send you guys the Lonsdales, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I haven't had the Robusto yet. I'll definitely have to seek that one out and give it
Yeah.
a shot of the Robusto.
Yeah.
So our composite score is at 89.75 between all of us.
So what was yours, Ben? Was it a 90?
90. Yeah.
90. And then what was Aaron's?
90.
90.
I brought it down, guys. I'm sorry.
No,
it's
that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're here for.
Look, that's 89 should not be considered a bad score.
I think if you look at overall, and I would say that, by and large, we agree with a lot of the cigars. I think that's about what I think is a probably spot on number, right around that 90-ish range. I think it's a good cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd smoke this again and just, maybe take it a little bit slower, maybe just, and just see if that last third doesn't have that same experience for me. Like I said, this is only the second Toro that I've smoked.
Well, to your point, guys, you guys always talk about the Vitolas, and you guys have broadened my um, inquisitiveness, if that's a word, to experience cigars in different Vitolas. I'm a Toro guy. Like, so if I'm buying a cigar, I typically will go Toro, but that's not always the best Vitola, as you guys know. So I'm interested to try this in a different size.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely enough. I think if you, based on what I'm hearing, I'd encourage people. I haven't smoked the Lonsdales yet, or the other. Like I said, I've only had the Toro and one Robusto. So
Well, it sounds like
I haven't smoked the event one.
go ahead, Coop. What are you saying?
I haven't smoked the event one. I have one of the event ones. I haven't smoked it yet. The 20s. So I'm curious. That's the Bellicoso.
Yeah. Overall, I think it was a pretty satisfactory cigar. So it's definitely one to go try out. It's definitely not one to miss for sure. Definitely, it sounds like maybe the Robusto is the one. So let's maybe start there, then go on try the other sizes from there. There's always a sweet spot somewhere. One of the Vitolas is always the best.
Yep.
So I'm the same with Aaron. I'm a small ring gauge guy, Corona, Lonsdale, stuff like that, Corona Gorda. But my starting point is also a Toro, because Hinky Kellner taught us on the Davidoff, trips to the tastings that's where he blends at, because a good ratio of the wrapper, binder, filler, so you get a good feel of the blend itself.
Yeah.
So that's why I usually start with the Toro itself, and then if I like it, then I go to the different sizes and see which one I like. There's always one usually above the rest. So overall, pretty satisfactory cigar. I think we did pretty good with this one. So then you got any programming notes, Will?
Yeah. So Bear and I are going to be doing our show tomorrow night on Primetime Special Edition 109. We have a bunch of topics we're going to be talking about on that show. So you definitely want to tune in to that. Actually, it's an election night show. So which has become a little bit of a tradition on Special Edition. We do a show on election night. It's an off-year election, but we'll talk about the elections, not so much from the political things, but just kind of from a scorecard standpoint. There's a couple of big races, but there's a small race we're going to be watching tomorrow. And it's one that's close to Bear's heart, I know. And it's Bobby Valentine's quest to become mayor of Stamford, Connecticut. So, and he is what does it say? Bobby Valentine's is Bobby Valentine, and he put himself in a position where he may lose.
Got to be a better mayor than he is the manager of the Red Sox.
Well, if you want, Bobby B stuck his foot in his mouth again this week, is all to say, and might have just cost him the election. So we'll find out if that happens. Because he's in a very tight race. So we'll be watching that. We'll be talking a little about our friend Gabriel Alvarez too. It was the first interview that Bear and I did together. And we'll be talking about wedding cigars too, because Bear and I have some experience with that now. So you want to tune in for that. There'll be a host of topics. And then on Thursday, I mentioned Kevin from Rockefeller Cigars will be on Primetime with Aaron and I. And then next Monday, we're going to be doing Primetime Jukebox 55. Album archaeology is going to be Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys.
Nice. Very nice.
Yep.
Bear, who's your guest on El Oso Fumar Takes?
Well, I took a break this week. The month of October was pretty exhausting, but my previous take really great for my birthday episode on the 24th. Take 187, I had Steve Saka and Luciano Meireles. Great episode. Steve was in rare form, as he tends to be, and Luciano was fantastic as always.
He was.
So it's always good to have Steve on the show, and Luciano as well. So that was a great show. Next on this coming up at the end of this week, we've got Tim Wong celebrating my 4th anniversary. It's as been tradition here on El Oso Fumar Takes. My anniversary show, we always celebrate the very first take I ever had, which was done at La Zona Palooza 4 years ago now. And Tim Wong was my guest on my very first take. And so we bring Tim back again, just to celebrate 4 years of El Oso Fumar Takes. And we may or may not have an additional special guest. That is yet to be determined, not to be a teaser. But Chris Monaco of Amendola Cigars will be following up after that on the 14th, the 21st. We'll have Ben Lee back on the show. But we'll also have an additional special guest for that one. We'll have Mr. Pete Johnson, and we'll be talking about all things monsters, talking about the great series that he's put together over the years. And we'll be smoking some Monster Mash, talking about the Frank Redux, but also talking about the history of the monsters as well. So those the next few weeks will prove to be some fantastic stuff. So we're excited about it.
Awesome. That sounds like a good lineup there. Especially the one with me.
If I do say so myself.
That's
be
right.
fantastic.
Well, I think that about does it. Thank you everybody for joining us on the third roundtable on the Uncrowned 10. And on that note, please like, comment, subscribe before watching us on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.